Okay, in this tutorial we're going to look at making this revolving text box thing which changes text as it spins around. So we can use this as a main title type thing here, or if you come into the inspector here you can shrink it down and make it into a smaller, more discrete sort of effect and position it maybe in the bottom of your screen like so, and it would still be working like so. So either way works, depending on what you want to do with it. So this timeline set up 30 frames a second. That will become relevant later on when I start doing animation. So as usual, I'm working in Fusion, so you need to find your Fusion comp. So make sure your effects library is open, come to effects, and there's your Fusion comp. Or if you've taken my advice, you've clicked this star button and you've got Fusion comp down in your favorites bar. Bring your comp on. I'm going to right click and change clip duration to 15 seconds. Just gives us a bit of room to work. And we're going to go into Fusion. So here we are in Fusion. For now, we're not going to need the media pool or the effects library, so I can close that. Give myself a bit of room. So the first thing we're going to need to set up is our text. And to do that, I'm going to bring in a background node. I'm going to make this background the color that I want my end caps and text to be, in which case I'm going to make it red. We're also going to change the size of this background. So if you click on image, uncheck auto resolution, and I'm going to make the height a quarter height of the screen. So just divide 1080 by 4 and you get 270. So our background is now 1920 by 270. Next we're going to apply a mask to the background. So bring in a rectangle, pipe it into the blue mask input. With the rectangle selected, come over to the inspector and check invert. And now we can increase the size of our mask so that it goes over the edges. And this is a sort of choice thing really. You need to make sure you've got enough room for whatever text you're likely to want to put in. Once we've done that, we can come back up to our hotbar and grab a text node and take the output of the text node onto the output of the background to merge them together. Select the text node and put in whatever text you want. And adjust the size. And now we can select color and change the text color to whatever you want. So that's the first of our text setup. Now we're going to need 4 lots of this. So what I'm going to do is just copy. So Control C, paste 4 copies or 3 more copies to make 4 altogether. Tidy that up a bit. And now we can come to each text node in turn and put in the text that we want. So if we put the relevant merge node in the viewer so we can see what we're doing. So we've now got the 4 faces of our rotating oblong thing. So how do we get those into our 3D space to look like they're rotating on a cube? Well, what we do is we use a cube. Now ordinarily if you're going to put a cube in 3D space, you'd come here, pick a shape 3D and change it to a cube. We don't want to do that in this instance because we need to put different text elements on different faces of the cube, and we can't do that with shape 3D. So press Shift and Spacebar and type cube, and you see at the top you've got cube 3D. This is what we want, so click add. So we now have our cube 3D. It looks like this. Each face is a different color, and each face will accept its own input. A quick explanation of some of the 3D navigations. You notice that I was spinning the cube here. To do that, I press and hold the Option key or the Alt key, press and hold the middle mouse button, and then you can rotate. You can also press and hold the Command key and scroll your middle mouse button, and that zooms in and out. Or you can hold the middle mouse button on its own and pan your scene. So what we need to do first is to take all the color off the cube. So make sure your cube's selected, come to materials, and at the top you've got this list for face. Select each face and just drop it to white. In fact, we're not going to do all faces white. The right and left faces, so two sides are currently green and purple, I'm actually going to make red to match the red on our text, like so. So now the two ends are both red. All the other faces are going to be white. And the back's already white. Cool, so now we need to put our text onto our cube. And all we do, if you right click and drag from the output of your text, drop it onto your node, you get a list of the various faces. So our first text is going on the front. The next text is going to go on the bottom. The third text is going to go on the back. And the last text is going to go on the top. So now we end up with this cube with our text on it. Now what you notice is that the text is all elongated. Unlike an image plane, if you pipe your text image into an image plane, it will adapt to the resolution of that particular setup. The cube doesn't, so we need to do that manually. So if you remember, we picked quarter height for our background, so we're going to pick quarter height for our height and our depth on our cube 3D. Select cube 3D, come to controls, uncheck where it says lock height, width and depth. Now the width is going to stay at 1, height and depth are going to go to a quarter, so 0.25. And now you can see we're back in proportion. And there you basically have your text on your box. Okay, so we've got our cube set up. The next thing to do is to put it into a 3D scene. So to do that, we're going to need to bring from this right hand group of icons, in the middle you've got a merge node. Then we're going to add a camera, a light and a render. The render 3D basically puts our 3D scene into a 2D format that can then get piped back to the timeline. Now, if we put if we put merge 3D into the viewer, our text has disappeared because it's not connected yet. So we're going to connect that up now. As you can see at the minute, I've got lighting turned on in the viewer and we can't see anything because the light is in the middle of our object. So we need to bring our light out and position it to light the object properly. So select the spotlight, come to transform, click use target. This keeps our light pointed at the center of the scene. What we can then do is use the translation wheels to position our light. So drag it back along Z. You can lift it up to make it higher, and you can bring it off to one side or the other, like so. Now what I'm going to do for the camera, I like this view, and what I can do is if I select the merge node and then come to where it says perspective, right click and then copy POV to camera, that will move the camera and put it so that it's looking at that view. The last thing we need to do, come to our render node and turn the lighting and shadows on, and then you get your shaded effect. Okay, so we've got our cube thing set up with all our text. Next thing we're going to do is animate it. To do that, come into your Cube 3D. Go to the transform settings, and what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it around the X axis. And we're going to change the phase every 1.5 seconds. So in my case, that's going to be every 90 frames. No, it's not. It's going to be every 45 frames because I'm on a 30 frame per second timeline. So start at frame 0, put a keyframe on the X rotation, go to frame 45, and we're going to rotate it to -90. Then we're going to come to frame 90 and we're going to rotate it to -180. And finally we're going to come to frame 135 and we're going to set it to -270. So now we've got the first 3 frames, or the first 3 faces. Now what you notice is when you come to this face, our text is upside down. So this is the 3rd text. So this text here. So to correct that, come to your hotbar, look for transform, click and drag it over the line from your 3rd lot of text. You'll see it turns blue, let go, and that connects it automatically. If for some reason it didn't connect automatically, so it may look as though it's connected, but it's not. What you can do, press and hold the shift key and then bring it over the line till the line changes colour and then let go, and then you're connected. With your transform connected, come to the inspector and just set angle to 180. And that'll turn your text all the way around, like so. So coming back to the animating the cube, we've got our first 3 faces. So we're up to 135. We go to 180 and then set this to -360. And we have a complete rotation. So you've gone from the name, photo and video, DaVinci Resolve, Fusion Tutorials, and back. So that's fine, but what we wanted to do is to keep rotating for the whole length. Now you can go on and just set keyframes every 45 frames, or go up to the top of the screen to where it says spline, click and open the spline viewer. Make sure that your cube 3D is selected, and then your cube 3D will appear here. Check it to make it active. Come to this little button here that says zoom to fit. And then select all the nodes, and what you're going to do is press F ready on the keyboard. This is going to add easing to our rotation. If you now press T, you get these ease in, ease out values. And what I do is set them up to 50. Like so. Now with all our keyframes still selected, come down to the bottom of your spline window and you'll find this button that says set relative. Hit that. And that just now keeps that wave going in the same direction at the same pace. So it will now spin as long as the comp lasts. Like so. And it will keep going even after this last keyframe. Okay, close your spline window. We've got our animation going. The last thing we need to do is set it up so that the text changes. To do that, we're going to keyframe the actual text nodes. Now, for some reason, my show modes and options keeps turning itself off, so I never know what's got keyframes on it. This has got keyframes on it, and that's all at the minute. The text you need to animate so that it changes when this face is on the bottom, so 3 rotation or 3/4 rotations round. So the name is currently at the top by there, the back by there, and the bottom here. And this is the frame that we need to change our text. So we don't want it all the way back because you'll see the change. So we do it the section before. So at the minute, if I uncheck cold faces, you can see that Simon Stansfield is at the bottom here. So we're going to select text 1, we're going to come to the inspector and we're going to keyframe where it says text. So just add a keyframe. Then we're going to go back to frame 0 and add another keyframe. Come back to where you've just added the keyframe. And now we can change this text. And next time it comes round, it will have the new text on it. So let me just put my cold face back on so you don't see the change. So it spins round, and this time when the name comes back round, which will be after this point here, it's no longer the name, it's whatever your new text is. And what you need to do now is just work through the other texts. So your first text changed at frame 135. Your next text will change at frame 180. So go to frame 180, select your second text, add your keyframe, back to 0, add a keyframe, back to 180, and change this to whatever you want. And so you repeat for the other 2 faces. So 180 plus 45 will take you up to 225. Come to your third text, set a keyframe, back to frame 0, back to 225, change your text, and then 270 will be our last, and that's for our fourth text. Set keyframe, back to the start, add a keyframe. You can use this little arrow to jump back to your keyframe, and then change your text. And you could keep on going. I'm going to leave it at sort of 2 rounds. So now if we look at this, what we get, so the first 1, 2, and then the text will change on each face and you'll have new text come round. And that, as they say, is all there is to it. So yeah, let's say you can keep it going indefinitely. You would just keyframe the text whenever the face is at the bottom, so you can't see it. Keyframe it to change text, and you can keep going. As it is, we'll keep it going to here. If you come round again, you've still got, I believe, the great guy. Oh no, sorry, that was the change for the notification bell. If you then come round, 270 will take you to 315, isn't it? Is the next. So at that point, I'm going to jump back into the edit tab, just cut the end off the Fusion comp. So we've now got 10 seconds and 10.5 seconds effectively to run through. We let this cache. So now it's cached, you can play it through and you get this kind of effect. Now obviously it's on black at the minute because it's transparent, and on the edit page there's nothing underneath it. But if you find a clip of some description, it will play over the top of that clip. And be transparent. And that's it, one funky spinny cube text thing. As I said at the start, you can use it as a lower third by dropping the zoom and the position, or you can have it in the middle of your screen, however you want. Okay, hope that made sense. Hope it was helpful. Feel free to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.